The postcard arrived on a Tuesday, its glossy surface mocking me with images of a sprawling colonial house nestled behind perfectly manicured hedges. My brother's handwriting, always precise and controlled, filled the blank space with details about square footage and property values. I traced my finger over his words, feeling the indent of his pen strokes, each one a fresh paper cut to my dignity. I'm Everly, and I've spent 15 years cleaning other people's messes at Clean Sweep Services, while my younger brother Michael climbed the corporate ladder I helped build for him. Another love letter from the golden child? Karen leaned against the break room doorway, her cleaning cart blocking the hall traffic. Just Michael bragging about his new house. I flipped the postcard face down. 5 bedrooms, 3-car garage, and a wine cellar, because apparently that's essential these days. Sounds like someone's compensating for something. Karen snorted, pulling up a chair. Remember when he used to crash on your couch after Mom died? Back when he couldn't afford his own place? The memory stung. I'd worked double shifts to put him through business school, living on ramen and coffee while he focused on his studies. He's different now. Success changed him. Success didn't change him, Ev. It just gave him permission to be who he always was. My phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil, Michael's text glowed on the screen. Got the postcard? Having a housewarming next Saturday. Wear something professional. The last word made my jaw clench. I knew exactly what he meant. Last time I showed up at one of his gatherings in my work clothes, he'd introduced me as his eccentric sister who hasn't quite found her path yet. I was 35, not some lost teenager. You're not actually going, are you? Karen's eyes narrowed. I have to. He's still my brother. The words tasted bitter. Besides, Samantha will be there showing off their perfect life to everyone. Someone needs to keep them honest. Honest? Karen laughed. Those two wouldn't know honest if it came with a designer label. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Michael. BTW, my new position at Aspen Tech comes with a corner office. Finally getting what I deserve. You should consider applying for our maintenance team. I could put in a good word. The break room suddenly felt too small. I stood up, crumpling the postcard in my fist. You know what the worst part is? He actually thinks he's being generous, like he's doing me a favor by offering to help me clean his office. So don't go. Send a nice card saying you've got better things to do. But we both knew I would go. I'd show up in my nicest dress, smile through his backhanded compliments, and watch him hold court among his corporate friends. Because that's what family does, right? We show up, even when it hurts. I need to finish the executive floor, I said, reaching for my cart. Linda's coming by for inspection later. Linda's different, Karen called after me. She actually sees people, not just their job titles. As I pushed my cart toward the elevator, my phone buzzed one final time. Michael again. Almost forgot. Samantha's planning a formal dinner. Nothing too fancy, just business casual. You do own something besides uniforms, right? I stopped in front of the mirrored elevator doors, studying my reflection in the polished steel. My clean sweep uniform was spotless, pressed to perfection, everything he looked down on. 15 years of loyalty, hard work, and dignity compressed into a polyester reminder of what he thought I'd failed to become. The elevator dinged, and as I stepped inside, something shifted. Maybe it was the weight of that crumpled postcard in my pocket, or maybe it was just time, but I felt the last thread of sisterly patience snap. Michael wanted to play games? Fine. But he'd forgotten one crucial detail. I knew every inch of his precious Aspen Tech building. After all, I'd been cleaning it and learning its secrets for years. Let him have his housewarming party. I had other plans brewing, and they didn't involve wearing business casual. The housewarming party was exactly what I expected, a parade of designer suits and practiced smiles. I stood in Michael's marble-floored foyer, clutching a bottle of wine that probably cost less than one of Samantha's shoes, watching my brother work the room like a politician at a fundraiser. And here's my sister, Michael announced as he steered a group of executives in my direction. She's very dedicated to her work. The pause before dedicated might as well have been a gunshot. Everly manages cleaning operations, he continued, his smile never reaching his eyes. Very hands-on, aren't you? One of the men, tall, silver-haired, expensive watch, gave me that particular nod people reserve for service workers. Admirable. We need more people willing to do the necessary jobs. Someone has to keep things running smoothly, I replied, matching Michael's smile watt for watt. Though I hear Aspen Tech's maintenance team is struggling lately, especially around the executive floor. Michael's jaw tightened. He knew exactly what I meant. I'd seen the complaints about his treatment of the cleaning staff, the way he left messes for others to handle. Speaking of maintenance, Samantha glided over, all silk and perfume. We simply must show everyone the wine cellar. Michael had it specially designed. Built on the foundation of hard work, I added, raising my glass, and family support. The group moved on, leaving Michael behind. His fingers drummed against his crystal tumbler. You're acting strange tonight. Strange how? By existing in your perfect world? By being confrontational? This isn't like you, Ev. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think. A burst of laughter drew his attention to where Samantha was holding court. Look, I know things haven't been easy for you, but this is an important night for me. Could you just try to fit in? The words hit like acid. Fit in? Like when you made me use the service entrance at your wedding? That was Samantha's idea. She thought it would look bad having the cleaning lady enter through the front door, even if that cleaning lady was your sister. His phone buzzed. He checked it, frowning. Tom's asking about the Harrison proposal. I told him I'd handle it personally. Tom, your supervisor? I remembered the name from overheard conversations while cleaning his office. The one you said was too stupid to recognize real talent? Michael's eyes narrowed. Have you been eavesdropping on my calls? Hard not to when you're shouting into your phone about how you're going to take his position by the end of the year. The color drained from his face. That was a private conversation. Nothing's private when you treat people like furniture. I set down my glass. You know what Mom used to say about karma? Don't. His voice dropped to a whisper. Not tonight. She said it always collects its debts with interest. Linda appeared at my elbow, stunning in her executive attire, a deliberate choice we'd planned together. Everly, darling, ready for that tour? Michael blinked, clearly thrown by her presence. You two know each other? Oh, didn't Everly mention? Linda's smile was razor sharp. I'm the executive vice president of Clean Sweep Services. Your sister and I work quite closely together. I watched the implications click behind Michael's eyes. All those private conversations in his office. All those documents left carelessly on his desk. All those meetings I'd cleaned around. Excuse us, Linda said, leading me away. We have some business to discuss. As we walked, I caught sight of our reflection in the window. Linda in her power suit, me in my carefully chosen dress. No longer the invisible cleaner, but something else entirely. Tom's email about the Harrison proposal just went out, Linda murmured. Apparently, someone accessed Michael's computer and sent some very interesting screenshots to the board. Really? I watched Michael across the room, already on his phone, panic creeping into his posture. How unfortunate. Karma, Linda said, clinking her glass against mine, does have a way of coming full circle. Through the window, I could see storm clouds gathering. The perfect weather for Michael's perfect party was about to take a very dark turn. And I was just getting started. 3 days after the housewarming party, I found Michael waiting by my cleaning cart on the executive floor. His tie was loose, his normally perfect hair disheveled. The Harrison proposal fallout had hit harder than expected. We need to talk about what you're doing, he said, voice low enough that passing employees wouldn't hear. I continued restocking my supplies. I'm working. Some of us still have to do that. Cut the act. I know you've been going through my files. Going through them? I snapped on fresh gloves. No, I've been cleaning around them, like I'm paid to do. Though you do leave interesting things in plain sight. His hand shot out, gripping my arm. This isn't a game, Everly. Tom's investigating discrepancies in my reports. Someone's been feeding him information. Maybe you should have been more careful with your creative accounting. You don't understand what's at stake here. His grip tightened. I worked too hard to let you work too hard? The words escaped like steam from a pressure cooker. I cleaned offices at night while putting you through business school. I skipped meals to pay your rent. Where was all this concern about stakes when you were climbing over people to get to the top? A door opened down the hall. Michael released my arm, straightening his tie. Tom emerged from his office, frowning at the sight of us. Everything all right here? Tom asked. Just catching up with my sister, Michael said, his professional mask sliding back into place. Family matters. Tom's eyebrows rose. Sister? I wasn't aware. Yes, well, we all have our humble beginnings. Michael's laugh was practiced, hollow. Speaking of the Harrison proposal, We'll discuss that at the board meeting. Tom's tone left no room for argument. And Michael, maybe spend less time networking and more time double-checking your numbers. After Tom left, Michael's facade cracked. This is your fault. You're trying to ruin me. No, I said, pushing my cart forward. I'm just cleaning up your messes, like always. Later that afternoon, I was emptying trash bins when Samantha clicked into view on her designer heels. We need to talk about Michael. I'm busy. He's drinking again. She glanced around the empty office. He thinks you're out to get him. It's affecting his work, his health, and your lifestyle. Her perfectly lined lips tightened. You know, he defended you for years. When people asked why his sister was just a janitor, he'd say you were finding your way. How generous of him. But lately, he's different, paranoid, checking his computer constantly, worried about his files. She stepped closer. Whatever you're doing, please stop, for his sake. I thought about the flash drive in my pocket, heavy with evidence of Michael's creative accounting and office politics, about Linda's plans to use it, about karma and consequences. You know what he said at your wedding? I met her gaze. When I asked to use the main entrance, he said I should know my place. That was years ago. No, that was who he really is, who you both are. I grabbed my cart. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. As I turned the corner, I heard Samantha's phone ring. Her voice shifted from pleading to sharp concern. What do you mean the board wants an emergency meeting? That evening, Linda poured us both a glass of wine in her office. The board received an anonymous tip about systematic fraud in the Harrison numbers. They're launching a full audit. Michael won't survive that. No, Linda agreed, he won't. I stared at my wine, remembering Michael's grip on my arm, his desperation. He's drinking again. Having second thoughts? No. I touched the bruise forming under my sleeve. Just thinking about Mom. She always said karma comes for everyone eventually. Karma needs a helping hand sometimes. Linda's smile was sharp in the fading light. The board meeting's tomorrow. Are you ready? I thought about Michael's perfect house, his designer-wearing wife, his carefully constructed world built on other people's broken dreams, about all the nights I'd cleaned around evidence of his schemes, watching him step on anyone in his way. Yes, I said, raising my glass. I'm ready. Tomorrow, Michael would learn what it felt like to lose everything. And I'd be there, watching from the shadows he'd tried so hard to keep me in, as karma finally collected its debt. The board meeting lasted exactly 27 minutes. I watched through the glass walls as Michael's world imploded, timing each phase of his destruction while I dusted the conference room next door. First came the defensive posture, then the desperate explanations, and finally the slumped shoulders of defeat. When security arrived to escort him out, I made sure to be cleaning the lobby. You did this. His voice cracked as they waited for the elevator. Somehow you did this. I kept wiping the same spot on the reception desk, my reflection fractured in its polished surface. The board found irregularities in your reports, Michael. That's all. Irregularities? He laughed, a harsh sound that made the security guards tense. They had copies of private emails, financial records from my personal computer, things nobody could have accessed unless they were invisible. I finally looked up. Like the cleaning staff you never noticed? The elevator dinged. Michael resisted as the guards moved to guide him in. Mom would be ashamed of you. No. My voice stayed steady, though my hands shook. Mom taught us about consequences. As the doors closed on Michael's face, Linda appeared beside me. Well done, though perhaps a bit theatrical at the end. He needed to know it was me. And now he does, along with having proof of your involvement. She touched my arm, which makes the next phase more complicated. I turned. What next phase? The board's expanding their investigation. They're looking into everyone Michael worked closely with. Her smile didn't reach her eyes, including his family members who might have had access to sensitive information. The cleaning cloth slipped from my fingers. You knew this would happen. Of course. Why do you think I encouraged you to keep evidence of your activities? She produced a folder. Everything you did, the late-night access to his office, the copied files, the anonymous tips, it's all documented here. You're blackmailing me. I'm protecting our interests. CleanSweep is bidding for Aspen Tech's maintenance contract. Having leverage over their internal investigation could be valuable. The lobby suddenly felt too small, too exposed. I trusted you, and I helped you get revenge. Now I'm offering you a choice. She held out the folder. Join me at the executive level, help secure the contract, and this evidence disappears. Or I go down with Michael. We all make choices, Everly. Your brother chose arrogance. You chose revenge. Her heels clicked against the marble as she walked away. You have until tomorrow to choose your next move. I stood there, staring at my distorted reflection, remembering all the nights I'd spent cleaning these floors while dreaming of justice. But this wasn't justice. This was becoming everything I hated about Michael. Karen found me in the supply closet an hour later, methodically organizing cleaning supplies I'd already arranged twice. Heard about Michael, she said, closing the door. Also heard Linda's been asking IT about access logs from the past 6 months. My hand stilled on a bottle of disinfectant. She's covering her tracks. No. Karen leaned against the shelves. She's creating a paper trail, one that leads to you, not her. I should have seen it coming. The bottle cracked in my grip. I was so focused on Michael, I didn't notice I was becoming just like him, stepping on people, using them for my own agenda. So, what are you going to do? I thought about Mom, about her lessons on karma and consequences, about Michael's face as the elevator closed, about Linda's perfectly orchestrated trap. Something stupid, I said, reaching for my phone. I'm going to call Tom. Michael's supervisor? Why? Because. I pulled up his contact information, carefully collected during my late-night cleaning sessions. Before I started this, I was just the invisible cleaning lady. Now I'm the invisible cleaning lady with copies of everything Linda's been doing with company contracts for the past year. You kept evidence against her, too? Mom also taught us about insurance policies. I pressed dial. Time to see how karma feels about double crosses. The phone rang once, twice. As Tom answered, I caught my reflection in the supply closet's small mirror. For the first time in months, I recognized the person staring back. Tom's office felt smaller at night, the city lights casting strange shadows across his desk. He studied the files I'd brought, Linda's secret dealings, manipulated contracts, years of corporate manipulation laid bare in manila folders. This goes deeper than your brother's case, he said, spreading out documents. These bid manipulations, the kickbacks. Linda's been playing both companies for years. She taught Michael everything he knows. I touched the bruise on my arm, still tender. Or maybe it was the other way around. Why bring this to me now? The question hung in the air like smoke. Through the window, I could see the cleaning crew working in the building across the street, invisible people keeping the corporate world turning. Because I forgot who I was, I said. I wanted revenge so badly I became what I hated. My phone buzzed. Linda. 3rd call in an hour. Tom noticed. She suspects? She knows. I showed him the text. Meeting in my office. Now, don't make me come find you. We need time to verify these documents, build a case. He gathered the files. If she realizes you've turned evidence, she already does. I stood, straightening my uniform. That's why I'm going to her office. That's not wise. Neither was teaching me how to manipulate people. I headed for the door. But she did it anyway. The walk to Linda's office felt like crossing a minefield. Every security camera, every late-working employee could be reporting my movements. When I arrived, she was waiting with 2 security guards. Close the door, she said, voice honey-sweet. We need to discuss your future with the company. I remained standing. Like you discussed Michael's future? Michael was a means to an end, just like you. She gestured to a contract on her desk. Sign it. Full confession to corporate espionage, dated before you accessed any files. You'll be dismissed, but avoid prosecution. And if I don't, then tomorrow, evidence surfaces showing you manipulated your brother's files, planted false evidence, all to advance your position. Her smile tightened. Who would believe the cleaning lady over an executive vice president? You taught me too well, Linda. I pulled out my phone, showing her the recording app. About keeping evidence. The honey vanished from her voice. Security, please escort. I wouldn't. I held up my hand. Karen's live streaming this conversation to Tom. One wrong move and everything goes public. Linda's mask cracked. For a moment, I saw what Michael must have seen in me. The satisfaction of watching someone's carefully constructed world crumble. You really think you can win? She asked. Against me? I own this building, these people. No. I moved closer, voice low. You just taught them to fear you, like Michael did, like I almost did. Her hand slammed the desk. Security, remove her. Ma'am. One guard interrupted, touching his earpiece. We have federal agents in the lobby. The color drained from Linda's face. What did you do? I learned from the best. I headed for the door. About keeping insurance policies. In the elevator down, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Karen was waiting in the lobby, surrounded by FBI agents. Tom's showing them everything, she said. You okay? I watched the agents head upstairs, thinking about Michael, about Linda, about how easy it was to become the thing you're fighting against. I need to make a call, I said, pulling out my phone. To who? Michael. I found his number. He needs to know it's over. Really over. You sure? After everything he did? I thought about Mom, about karma, about choices. He needs to know I'm choosing to stop, before I become just another Linda. The phone rang as the first agents led Linda out in handcuffs. She caught my eye as they passed, and I saw something familiar in her expression. The same look Michael had when his world collapsed. But this time I felt no satisfaction, just a quiet certainty that some cycles needed to end. I pressed the call button, watching Linda disappear into the night. It was time to clean up one last mess, not for revenge, but for peace. Michael was waiting at Mom's grave when I arrived, his designer suit replaced by worn jeans and an old sweater. 3 days of stubble darkened his jaw. The federal investigation had aged him a decade. Samantha left, he said without turning, took everything that wasn't frozen by the investigators. I kept my distance, the fresh flowers heavy in my hands. I heard. Did you plan that too? Turn my wife against me while you were destroying everything else? She made her own choices, like you did. He laughed, hollow and sharp. Like you did, you mean? Teaming up with Linda, playing corporate spy? Finally, he turned. Was it worth it, becoming exactly what you hated about me? The accusation hit harder than expected. I placed the flowers against Mom's headstone, trying to steady my hands. Linda's been arrested. I know. It's all over the news. Executive Vice President's corruption scandal, cleaning staff whistleblower. His voice cracked. But they're looking at me too. Every deal I ever made, every contact, every decision. They think I was part of her network. Weren't you? Not knowingly. He ran a hand through unkempt hair. I was just ambitious, stupid. I wanted to prove I deserved everything you sacrificed for me. A text buzzed on my phone. Karen warning me about reporters gathering at my apartment. The story was spreading faster than expected. They're calling you a hero, Michael continued. The invisible janitor who exposed corporate corruption. Meanwhile, I can't even access my bank accounts. That's not my fault. No? He pulled out his phone, showing me news headlines. Anonymous sources say Linda's corruption started around the same time I joined Aspen Tech. They're connecting dots, Everly. And guess who they think introduced us? My stomach dropped. The investigation was supposed to stop at Linda, not spiral backward through years of connections. I kept records too, he said quietly. Of everything, including your late-night office visits, the files you accessed, the meetings you overheard while cleaning. If I go down for corporate espionage, you're coming with me. You'd destroy us both? You already did that. He stepped closer. But here's the thing about being invisible. Once people start looking, they see everything, every detail, every connection. Another text, Tom, this time. The FBI wanted to interview me again. They had new questions about my relationship with Michael before Linda's involvement. What do you want? My voice sounded distant, hollow. A deal. You tell them you acted alone, used my access codes without my knowledge. Paint me as another victim of Linda's manipulation. His eyes met mine. Or we both burn. That's not justice, Michael. That's just more manipulation. Justice? He gestured at Mom's grave. Was it justice when you helped Linda target my projects? When you fed her information about my meetings, my clients? His voice dropped. When you used everything I taught you about climbing the corporate ladder to push me off it? The truth of his words hit like physical blows. I had become exactly what I despised, someone who used people's trust against them, who justified cruelty as karma. My phone buzzed again. The FBI was at my apartment. Time to choose, Ev. Michael stepped back. Save yourself or save what's left of our family, but you can't do both. I stared at Mom's headstone, remembering her lessons about karma and consequences. But she never taught us what to do when karma turned back on itself, when justice became just another word for revenge. The reporters will be here soon, Michael said, walking away. Better decide quickly who you want to be, the whistleblowing hero or the sister who helped her brother destroy himself. I watched him disappear among the gravestones, my phone vibrating with urgent messages. The choice he offered wasn't really a choice at all. It was a mirror, showing me exactly what I'd become in my quest for revenge. The first camera flashes appeared at the cemetery entrance. Reporters, drawn by some leak about our meeting. Soon they'd want statements, explanations, someone to blame or praise. But standing there, between Mom's grave and the approaching storm, I realized there was a third option Michael hadn't considered. One that would cost everything, but might finally break the cycle we'd trapped ourselves in. I pulled out my phone, dialed Tom's number, and prepared to tell the whole truth about both of us. The Federal Investigations press conference was scheduled for noon. At 11:30, I found Michael in his empty corner office, boxing up the last of his belongings. The Harrison proposal sat shredded in his wastebasket. "You could have warned me," he said without looking up, "about your deal with the prosecutors." Like you warned me about Linda's real plans for clean sweep? His hands stilled on a framed photo. Us with Mom, before everything went wrong. Linda told me you'd never rise above cleaning floors unless someone pushed you, that helping you meant making you angry enough to fight back. And you believed her? I believed I knew what was best for you, like always. He set the photo down. The prosecutors offered me immunity too, you know. Full cooperation against Linda in exchange for testimony about your involvement. My stomach clenched. And I told them to go to hell. Finally, he turned. Because that's what family does, right? Protects each other? Like you protected me by telling them everything? I told them the truth, about both of us. The truth? He laughed, bitter and sharp. The truth is, you became exactly what you hated about me. Manipulative, calculating, using people's weaknesses against them. Maybe I learned from the best. Or maybe we're both just broken pieces of what Mom tried to build. He moved to the window, staring at the gathering media below. They're calling it the biggest corporate corruption case of the decade. Linda's going to prison. I'm facing charges. And you're the hero whistleblower who exposed it all. That's not what I wanted. No. He spun back. Then what did you want, Everly? Revenge? Justice? Or just to prove you could play the game better than me? The office felt suddenly airless. Through the glass walls, I could see Karen watching, ready to intervene if needed. I wanted my brother back, I said quietly. The one who used to thank me for cleaning his dorm room, who promised Mom he'd always look out for me. That brother died the day he realized being nice meant staying invisible. His voice cracked. You think I didn't see how hard you worked? How much you sacrificed? It killed me, Ev. So I decided to become someone who could give you everything you deserved. I never wanted everything. I just wanted you to see me. I saw you. Every day watching from the shadows, learning our weaknesses, planning your revenge. He picked up the photo again. Mom would be proud. You finally learned to fight back. Don't. My hands shook. Don't use her to justify what we did to each other. Sirens wailed outside, federal agents arriving for the press conference. Michael's phone buzzed with messages he ignored. You know what's funny? He said, touching Mom's face in the photo. Linda thought she was using us against each other. But we did this ourselves. Perfect karma, right? It's not too late, I whispered. Tell them everything. About Linda, about the corruption, about how it started. We can face this together. Together? He placed the photo in his box. We stopped being together the day you decided revenge was more important than family. And what about when you decided success was more important than kindness? The elevator dinged, agents approaching. Michael straightened his tie one last time. Guess we'll both have to live with our choices, he said, lifting his box. Good luck with your clean conscience, sis. I hope it keeps you warm in that empty apartment you'll go home to tonight. As he reached the door, I called out, I kept the postcard. He paused. The one about your house, I continued. I kept it because it was the last time I felt proud of you, before I learned how you got there. His shoulders tensed, but he didn't turn. Keep it. It'll be worth something when this story hits the papers. The agents rounded the corner as Michael stepped out. I watched through tears as they led him away, thinking about Mom's lessons on karma and consequences, about how revenge doesn't heal wounds. It just creates new ones. Karen appeared at my side. You okay? I touched the window, watching Michael disappear into a federal vehicle below. No, but maybe that's the price of justice. Or maybe it was just the cost of becoming what we feared most in each other. The cleaning cart's wheels squeaked against the polished floor of AspenTech's lobby. One last job, one final space to clean, before walking away from everything I'd built and destroyed. Michael's former office still smelled of his cologne. The empty shelves held dust outlines of his achievements, and the window view he'd been so proud of showed only my reflection now. A woman in a cleaner's uniform, holding vindication in one hand and regret in the other. The postcard sat in my pocket, worn from constant handling. I placed it on his empty desk, next to the resignation letter I'd written to CleanSweep. Karen had called me crazy for quitting just as the board was considering me for management, but she hadn't seen the look in Michael's eyes during his sentencing. The door opened. Tom stood there, tie loosened, looking as tired as I felt. Thought I'd find you here, he said. The FBI finished their final interviews. Linda's taking a plea deal. And Michael? 18 months with good behavior. He stepped inside. They're calling it a victory for corporate accountability. I wiped invisible dust from Michael's desk. Is that what we're calling revenge these days? You exposed real corruption, Everly. That's not revenge, that's justice. Maybe. I touched the postcard's glossy surface. Or maybe justice was just the excuse we all used to hurt each other. The setting sun painted the office in amber, highlighting the empty spaces where family photos once stood. Where Michael and I had slowly destroyed each other in our quest to prove something to ourselves. The board wants to offer you Linda's position, Tom said quietly. Clean slate, fresh start. Everything you fought for. I thought about Mom's lessons on karma, about Michael's words in the cemetery, about how victory and vengeance left the same bitter taste. I'm declining, I said, pulling out my keycard. Some spaces need to stay clean of us both. Where will you go? The question echoed in the empty office. Through the window, I could see other cleaners starting their evening shifts, invisible workers keeping the corporate world turning. There's a small cleaning company across town, I said. Family-owned. They're hiring. Starting over? Starting clean. I placed my keycard on the desk next to the postcard. As I turned to leave, Tom called out. He asked about you, during processing. Wanted to know if you kept the photo from his office. My hand touched the frame in my cart, Michael, Mom, and me, before success and revenge rewrote our story. Tell him. I paused, thinking of all the words we'd used to wound each other. Tell him Mom would have understood, about both of us. The cleaning cart's wheels squeaked one last time as I pushed it toward the elevator. Behind me, the sunset painted Michael's empty office in shades of gold and shadow, like a stage after the final act. In my pocket, my phone buzzed with a text from Karen. You sure about this? I thought about Michael in his prison cell, about Linda in her plea deal, about how revenge and ambition had turned us all into reflections of what we feared most. Yes, I typed back. Some things need to stay broken to be rebuilt right. The elevator doors opened. As I stepped inside, I caught one final glimpse of my reflection. Not a victim, not a victor, just someone who'd finally learned that the hardest spaces to clean were the ones inside ourselves. The doors closed on AspenTech's lobby, on Michael's empty office, on the corporate world that had turned a brother and sister into casualties of their own ambitions. Tomorrow I'd start over with a different cart, in a different building, carrying different scars. But tonight I had one last stop to make. Mom's grave needed fresh flowers, and this time I'd bring enough for both sides of the story she'd left unfinished. The cleaner and the cleaned, the victory and the cost, the karma we'd created and the peace we'd lost. Some stains, after all, were meant to remind us of where we'd been. And some spaces needed to stay empty to show us where we could go.
My name's Eliza. Growing up, the difference between me and my twin sister Anna was like night and day. She was the golden girl, and well, I wasn't. Our dad, a stern university professor, had his life's work tied up in books and lectures, while our mom was the quintessential housewife, dedicated to her home and family, pushing us to follow in her footsteps. From as early as I can remember, being at home felt more like sitting through a never-ending critique session. My parents had a blueprint for the perfect family, and it didn't include a daughter who wore band t-shirts and liked to keep to herself. "Eliza, why can't you be more like your sister?" was my mom's favorite line, usually tossed my way when I showed up at breakfast with my headphones in, trying to block out the world. Anna, on the other hand, basked in the glow of approval. "I just don't get why it's so hard for you to put on a nice dress and smile more," she'd say, flipping her perfect hair over her shoulder. It was like she was from a different planet. One particularly grueling Saturday, as our family prepared for one of Dad's faculty parties, a total snooze fest but mandatory appearance for us, I decided to rebel in the smallest way I knew how. I put on my darkest eyeliner and a pair of boots that definitely did not meet the appropriate standard. "You're not going out like that, are you?" Mom caught me on the stairs, her eyes darting down to my boots as if they were covered in mud. I shrugged, my standard defense. "Don't see why not." She sighed, that long, drawn-out kind that said I was the biggest disappointment in her perfectly ordered world. "Please, Eliza, just this once, can't you try to fit in?" "What for? So you can pretend we're the perfect family?" I shot back, tired of the same old song and dance. "It's not about pretending. It's about showing respect for your father," she argued, her voice taking on that sharp tone that meant business. Anna, overhearing the exchange, came trotting down the hallway, her heels clicking on the hardwood like a judge approaching the bench. "Mom's right, Liz. It's not that hard to look decent. Why do you always have to make things difficult?" "Maybe I don't want to be a clone of you, Anna," I snapped, feeling my face get hot. I hated these arguments, hated being compared. But more than anything, I hated feeling like the odd one out in my own home. Dad appeared at the bottom of the stairs, his brow furrowed. "Enough," he commanded, his voice firm. "Eliza, go change. Now. We're leaving in 10 minutes. His tone left no room for argument. He didn't yell, he didn't need to. The disappointment in his eyes was enough to send me marching back to my room to swap my boots for bland flats and wipe away half my eyeliner. As we drove to the party, the car was silent except for the classical music Dad insisted on playing because it was calming. I stared out the window, the trees blurring past. In that moment, I promised myself, someday I'd live a life where no one could tell me what to wear, how to act, or who to be. Someday, I'd be free from the echo of these expectations. My room was the only corner of the house where I could pretend I was somewhere else, anywhere else. Unlike the rest of the house, which was filled with my parents' choices, my room was mine. It wasn't much, just 4 walls covered in sketches and music posters, but it was my escape from the reality of my family's expectations. One evening, as I was trying to lose myself in a playlist of my favorite bands, Dad knocked and marched into my room, his face set in a familiar frown. "Eliza, turn that noise down. And why haven't you studied with Anna today? You know you both have exams coming up," he said, his voice stern. I pulled out one earbud and looked up at him, trying to keep my voice even. "I've been studying, just not with Anna. I learn better on my own." Dad shook his head, clearly not buying it. "You know the rules. Your sister gets good grades, and you should be doing the same. I don't see why you always have to make things difficult." "It's not about making things difficult," I said, my frustration growing. "I just don't see why I have to follow Anna's way of doing everything. Can't I have my own way of studying?" He didn't respond to that, just switched his complaint. "And those friends of yours, I saw you with them at the cafe yesterday. I don't think they're a good influence. You should be spending time with the daughters of my colleagues. They're more suitable." I felt my temper rise. "Suitable for what? For you?" Because they talk about economics and pretend to enjoy those boring university gatherings? Before he could answer, Mom appeared at the doorway, her voice sharp as she joined in. Eliza, your father is right. Those girls are from good families. They know how to behave. They're the kind of friends you should want. I stood up, facing both of them. What if I don't want friends who are picked for me? What if I want to choose my own friends, choose what I study, or even what I want to be? That's enough, Eliza, Mom said, her tone final. You know your future is with the university. Your father has made sure of that. And after you graduate, you'll need to start thinking about settling down. We've already discussed this. Settling down. The words hung in the air like a life sentence. You mean, start thinking about being someone's wife? Like Anna? Is that all you think I'm meant for? Mom's face softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. We want what's best for you. Following the path we've set out will give you a good life. A good life, I repeated, the irony bitter in my mouth. Is it a good life if it's someone else's idea of good? No one answered that. They didn't need to. We all knew there was no point in arguing. They had their plans, and they expected me to fall in line, just like Anna. Anna and I were like two sides of the same coin, always together, but never on the same page. At university, where Dad taught, the differences between us grew even more obvious. She was into business management, the golden child, always nodding along in lectures, asking smart questions that made professors nod appreciatively. Me? I was stuck in the same program, but it felt like wearing a shoe on the wrong foot, awkward, uncomfortable, and just plain wrong. One afternoon, as I trudged through a mountain of textbooks in the library, Anna breezed in, her notes organized, her smile ready. Hey, Liz, you coming to the study group tonight? Professor Hall mentioned he's dropping by, could be good for us to show face, she said, her tone light but insistent. I glanced up, feeling the weight of her expectations. Nah, I don't think so. Those things aren't really my scene, you know? She frowned, placing her books down with a thud that matched her disapproval. It's not about it being your scene, Liz. It's about making the right impressions. You need to start taking this seriously. We're graduating soon. I shrugged, turning back to my notes. I am taking it seriously, just not in a way that makes me miserable. Why bother pretending? Because, Liz, sometimes you have to play the game to get ahead. You think I like all of this? She gestured around at her perfectly tabbed textbooks and color-coded notes. It's not about liking, it's about doing what's necessary. I shook my head, pushing back my chair with a scrape. Well, maybe I'm tired of doing what's necessary according to everyone else. Did you ever think of that? Her voice softened, but her eyes were steel. Liz, I'm just trying to look out for you. Dad's not going to be around to sort things out forever. What are you going to do if you keep alienating everyone? Maybe I'll figure it out on my own. Maybe I don't need to follow Dad's roadmap or yours. I shot back, feeling a surge of defiance. Anna sighed, her frustration clear. You're so stubborn. Just try, okay? For me, if not for yourself. Show up tonight, talk to Professor Hall. It won't kill you. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not just my annoyingly perfect sister, but someone who actually cared, in her own way. Fine, I'll think about it. I conceded, not ready to promise more. Thank you, she said, her smile returning. It's not that bad, you know. You might even like it if you gave it a chance. Doubt it, I muttered, but I knew I'd lost this round. For Anna, I'd show up, sit through another boring discussion, and nod at the right times. It was just a few hours, I told myself. How bad could it be? As it turned out, not as bad as I thought. Professor Hall was surprisingly interesting when he wasn't lecturing from a podium. I even asked a question, which earned a shocked but pleased look from Anna. Later, as we walked back to our dorm, Anna nudged me. See, not so terrible, right? That fragile peace didn't last long, however. In our last year, Anna introduced us to her fiancé, a lawyer 10 years her senior, already well established and exactly what our parents dreamed of. Mom and Dad were over the moon, praising Anna for making such a smart match, and immediately turned their expectant eyes on me. "Now, Eliza, it's your turn to find someone suitable," Dad said one evening over dinner, his tone implying that my time was running out. Mom nodded enthusiastically, already planning out my life as if it were another one of her well-organized home projects. "Think about your future, dear. Someone who can provide for you, who has a good standing." I remember staring at my plate, feeling the walls close in. Anna's wedding was meticulously planned down to the last detail by Mom, from the bridesmaids' dresses to the floral arrangements, showcasing her perfect vision of family prestige. After the wedding, Mom often visited Anna, doling out advice and ensuring her life played out just as she had orchestrated. Witnessing this, I knew one thing for certain: I didn't want my life tailored by someone else's hands. One day, I was walking down the street, lost in thoughts of how to escape the life my parents envisioned for me, when I heard the deep rumble of a motorcycle approaching. Curiosity pulled me toward the sound. That's when I saw him, Jake, with his leather jacket and carefree smile, pulling up beside me. "You look like you need a ride," he called over the roar of the engine, a playful twinkle in his eyes. I hesitated, glancing back towards the path home, then at his outstretched hand. What did I have to lose? "Sure, why not?" I replied, my voice a mix of nerves and excitement. Climbing onto the back of his bike, I felt a rush of adrenaline as we sped away. The wind whipped through my hair, and for the first time in a long time, I laughed, genuinely laughed. Jake shouted something about showing me his world, and I held on tighter, not wanting this moment to end. We stopped at a diner frequented by bikers. Over burgers and fries, Jake told me about his life as a welder, his passion for bikes, and his love for the open road. It was so different from anything I was used to, raw and real. "Don't you get scared, living like this?" I asked, my voice barely above the clatter of plates and chatter around us. "Scared? Nah, it's thrilling. You never know what's around the corner. Isn't that better than having everything planned out for you?" he replied, his eyes lighting up with each word. Over the next few weeks, we met secretly. Each ride on Jake's motorcycle pulled me further from the life I was supposed to live and closer to the life I wanted. The speed, the adventure, it wasn't just about the thrill. It was about feeling alive, feeling free. One evening, as we watched the sunset from a secluded overlook, Jake turned to me. "Eliza, I don't just ride to escape. I ride to feel alive, to make every moment count. With you, every moment feels like it's worth something." I leaned into him, my heart beating fast. "I've never felt like this before. You make me feel free, Jake." He smiled, pulling me closer. "Then let's not go back to just existing. Let's live." 6 months with Jake felt like a lifetime of moments I'd always dreamed of. The day he proposed, under the stars with the gentle rumble of his bike in the background, my heart screamed a yes, before my mouth could form the word. It was perfect, except for one looming hurdle: my parents. I wrestled with the fear of introducing Jake to them. He was everything they disapproved of: his rough edges, his wild spirit, his simple yet content life as a welder. But love bolstered my courage, and I decided it was time they knew. The day I brought Jake home, he was clad in his usual, a leather vest, black t-shirt, ripped jeans, and a bandana. I loved that about him: he was unapologetically himself. We walked up the driveway, and I could already feel the weight of my parents' judgment. As we stepped inside, Mom's face went pale at the sight of Jake, her eyes widening in shock. "What in the world, Eliza?" she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. Dad's reaction was harsher, his words sharp as knives. "Who is this, and why is he dressed like a thug in our house?" I took a deep breath, steadying my nerves. "Mom, Dad, this is Jake. He's the man I love. We're getting married." Their silence was deafening. Then, Dad turned to Jake, his tone laced with disdain. "Married? What do you do for a living, young man? What are your qualifications?" Jake, bless him, didn't waver. I'm a welder. I took some specialized courses after high school. I work hard, and I make an honest living. The look on my parents' faces was a mix of horror and disbelief. Mom looked like she might faint. A welder? Eliza, you can't be serious. Dad's voice rose, anger flaring. You expect us to give our blessing to this? To throw away your future for a welder? I felt my resolve harden. Yes, because he makes me happy. Isn't that what should matter? But the life you'll lead, Mom started, her voice tremulous. Will be the life I choose, I shot back, my own voice gaining strength. Dad shook his head, his decision clear. We cannot and will not support this. If you choose him, don't expect to be a part of this family. The finality in his tone broke my heart, but not my decision. Jake squeezed my hand, giving me the strength to face them. Then I choose Jake. I choose us. I choose my happiness. Mom's eyes filled with tears, and Dad's jaw clenched tight. If you walk out with him, don't bother coming back, Dad said, his voice cold. Walking away from my parents' house with Jake, my heart was a mess of emotions, pain, relief, excitement, and fear all mixed into one. The night air felt different, like each breath I took was a step further into a new life. We rode in silence for a while, the only sound the steady roar of the motorcycle beneath us. When we finally stopped at a small diner on the outskirts of town, Jake turned to me, his face serious. You sure about this, Eliza? I mean, really sure? There's no going back after tonight, he said, his eyes searching mine for any hint of doubt. I nodded, squeezing his hand tightly. I've never been more sure of anything. Being with you, this feels right. It feels like what I'm supposed to do. He smiled, that reckless, charming smile that had won me over the first day we met. All right, then. Let's do it. Let's start our life together. Inside the diner, we found a quiet booth in the corner. The waitress brought over 2 coffees without asking, and we sat there, planning our next steps. So, what's first? I asked, stirring cream into my coffee, watching it swirl and blend. We'll need to find a place to stay, at least for a while. Then, maybe look for jobs. I have some buddies who can help us get started, Jake replied, his tone practical, but optimistic. It's going to be tough, isn't it? I said, more a statement than a question. The reality of what we were doing was beginning to sink in. Jake reached across the table, his hand covering mine. It might be, but we'll handle it together. Tough is nothing new for either of us, right? I couldn't help but laugh, a short, sharp burst of genuine amusement. Right. Together. We spent hours in that diner, talking and planning. Every so often, Jake would throw out an idea that sounded so wild, so free, that it made my heart jump. And maybe one day, we'll save enough to take that road trip across the country, just you, me, and the open road. I'd like that, I said, allowing myself to dream bigger than I had ever dared. Riding back into the city, we began our search. The next weeks were a blur of activity. We found a small apartment on the edge of town, nothing fancy, but it was ours. Jake found work at a local garage, and I picked up shifts at a nearby diner. Life was hard, but it was ours. We made do with what we had, and every night when we came home to each other, it felt like we had everything. Months later, we decided it was time to make it official and got married in a small, intimate ceremony. I held on to a sliver of hope that my family would show up, that they would see how happy I was and let go of their prejudices. But the chairs reserved for them remained empty, and no congratulatory messages came. Despite the sting of their absence, the day was perfect because it was ours. Over time, I grew incredibly close to Jake's mom. She welcomed me with open arms, calling me her daughter, filling in the gaps left by my own family. Her warmth and acceptance healed some of the wounds left by my parents' rejection. Things were finally looking up for Jake and me. After he completed additional diving training and became a certified underwater welder, his income shot up to $150,000 a year. That change made a world of difference. We managed to buy a townhouse in a nice area, the kind of place I'd always daydreamed about but never thought I'd actually live in. I started working as a dispatcher in Jake's company. It wasn't just a job, it felt like I was part of something important, supporting the man I loved and building our future together. On weekends, we'd escape the city on his bike, roaring through winding roads and taking in breathtaking views of nature. Those moments, with the wind in my hair and his warmth against my back, were pure bliss. Living nearby, my mother-in-law became a frequent visitor. One such afternoon, while Jake was tinkering in the garage and I was fixing us some coffee, she arrived looking a bit troubled. "There's been some ugly news," she said as she settled down at the kitchen table. "Something about a professor at the university involved in a harassment scandal." My heart skipped a beat. "Oh? Did they say who it was?" I tried to keep my voice steady, dreading the answer. She shook her head. "No, they didn't mention a name on the radio, but you know how these things go. It's probably all over the TV by now." Nodding, I flicked on the television, tuning into the news. Sure enough, there was a report on the scandal, and as I had feared, my father's face appeared on the screen. The anchor detailed accusations against him, and I felt a cold wave of disbelief wash over me. Turning off the TV, I sat down heavily, trying to process the news. Jake came in, wiping his hands on a rag, and saw my face. "What's wrong, babe?" he asked, his brow furrowed in concern. I swallowed hard, my voice barely a whisper. "It's my dad. He's been accused of harassing a student." Jake's expression hardened for a moment before he came over and took my hand. "I'm sorry, Eliza. That's tough news. How do you want to handle this?" I shook my head, not really sure of anything at the moment. "I don't know. I mean, what can I even do? It's not like we're close anymore." He squeezed my hand, understanding. "Whatever you need, I'm here for you. We don't have to figure it all out right now." I decided to wait and see how things unfolded before making any moves. Whatever decision I made, I knew I'd have Jake by my side, and that was the reassurance I needed to face whatever came next. Life had been peaceful until that unexpected afternoon at work, when a familiar car pulled into the parking lot. I hadn't seen my parents in a long while, and the sight of them stirred up a mix of emotions I thought I had put to rest. Both of them looked dramatically changed, the scandal had taken its toll. Mom had lost a lot of weight and looked years older, while Dad appeared broken, a shadow of the stern man he once was. My mother spotted me and rushed over, arms open as if nothing had happened, as if years of distance and disapproval could be bridged in an instant. But I couldn't embrace her, not now. Instead, I stepped back and took Jake's hand, looking for strength in his presence. "Eliza, it was so hard to find you," Mom said, her voice cracking with emotion. Dad, ever the gruff one, cut to the chase, his voice harsh and bitter. "I was accused unfairly, you know. I went to your sister's husband for help, but that bloodsucker wanted a fortune. Your sister sided with him, and now they've kicked us out. We need your help." I stared at them, disbelief and anger swirling inside me. "Help? After all these years, you show up and demand help? We have nowhere else to go." Mom's voice was desperate. "They've disowned us too. We thought, maybe we could stay with you." I almost laughed at the absurdity. "Stay with me? After you disowned me? You made it clear I wasn't your daughter anymore." Dad's face turned red, his old temper flaring up. "You owe us, Eliza, after all we've done for you." "That's where you're wrong," I interrupted, feeling Jake squeeze my hand in support. "I don't owe you anything. You threw me out because I chose my happiness over your demands. And now you want what? To just move in and pretend like we're a family?" The situation was spiraling, and I could see people watching, a crowd beginning to form. Mom started to cry, her sobs loud and attracting even more attention. "You're being ungrateful, after everything we've done for you," she accused through her tears. I took a deep breath, my decision clear. "No, Mom. I'm not ungrateful. I'm free. And happy. You made your choices, and now you have to live with them." As we walked away, I heard my dad yelling, but Jake leaned over and quietly told the security team, "Don't let them come here again." The following months flew by, filled with love and peace. We welcomed a son, a new beginning in our growing family. My parents never came back. That day in the parking lot was the last I saw of them, and while part of me grieved for what could have been, I knew I had made the right choice for me and for my family. My life was pretty straightforward until Jake came along. I was a fitness trainer at a local gym, spending my days helping folks shape up, which kept me busy enough not to dwell on the lack of drama in my personal life. That all changed the day Jake walked into my gym. "Hey, I'm looking to switch up my routine. Got any killer moves to start with?" he asked, his tone light but his gaze intense. I gave him a once-over. He wasn't the usual newbie, unsure of which machine to try first. No, he looked like he knew his way around a gym but was here for something more. "Sure," I replied, leading him to a set of weights. "Let's see what you've got." That first session turned into a week, then a month, and our casual chats grew longer and more personal. Jake owned a small family restaurant, famous for its authentic Italian dishes. "It's all about the sauce," he'd say, "and nobody makes it like my mom." He talked about his mother with a mix of admiration and frustration, a combo that hinted at deep family ties. One afternoon, as we wrapped up a particularly intense workout, he caught me off guard. "Listen, Emily, I've been thinking. How about dinner at my place? You can meet my mom and try that sauce I keep bragging about." I hesitated, more out of surprise than disinterest. "Yeah, why not? I'm curious if it's as good as you claim." Dinner was cozy, the food incredible, and the company surprisingly comfortable. His mother, Anna, was all warm smiles and hearty laughs, though her eyes seemed to size me up with every glance. His younger sister, Sophia, dropped by too, her presence more prickly, her words sharp and quick. "So, Emily, Jake tells us you're quite the fitness guru," Sophia said, a smirk playing on her lips as she eyed the muscles I worked hard to build. "Ever deal with hopeless cases, or do you just make the fit fitter?" I chuckled, taking her jab in stride. "I believe everyone has potential. It's all about finding the right motivation." Jake was a constant during those early days, always showing up at the gym at the same time, always finding a reason to talk a little longer. "You know, I never believed in fate or any of that stuff," he confessed one evening as we closed up the gym together. "But meeting you? Maybe I was wrong." His words were a mix of rough charm and clumsy sincerity. It was refreshing, and despite the nagging voice in my head warning me to take it slow, I found myself falling for him. Hard and fast, like a rookie taking on too much weight without a spotter. One chilly evening, as we walked to our cars, he stopped and faced me, his expression serious. "Emily, I'm not good at this fancy talking, and I don't have a smooth line to throw your way. But I like you, a lot. What do you say we make this official?" It was abrupt and straightforward. No games, no dancing around the subject. That was Jake, direct and all in. I smiled, my heart hammering in my chest. "I say, yes. Let's see where this goes." And just like that, I was no longer just the fitness trainer at the local gym. I was Jake's girlfriend, and soon enough, his wife. Moving into Jake's mom's house right after we got married wasn't exactly what I had pictured for our happily ever after. Jake told me it was important to him because of his family ties, but living with his mom, Anna, and his sister, Sophia, was tough from the start. They didn't hide their displeasure about me joining the family, and things got tenser day by day. The house was always bustling, and somehow I ended up with more than my fair share of chores. After long hours at the gym, I'd come home to an endless list of tasks. The old washing machine was a nightmare, it broke down so often that I half joked it had something personal against me. But nobody else seemed to notice or care, especially not Anna or Sophia. I remember one evening after dinner, I was trying to fix that blasted machine again, and I could hear them in the kitchen. She doesn't even know what she's doing. Sophia laughed, not bothering to lower her voice. Watch, she'll flood the basement next. Their laughter echoed down the hallway, stinging more than I wanted to admit. I bit my tongue, focusing on the task at hand. It wasn't just the washing machine, it was everything. From cooking to cleaning, my efforts were just another source of entertainment for them. Cooking was the worst. Italian cuisine was sacred in this house, and my attempts were apparently blasphemous. I tried to follow Anna's recipes to the letter, but nothing seemed to work. One night, as I struggled with a supposedly simple pasta dish, Sophia hovered in the doorway. "Is that supposed to look like that?" she asked, a smirk playing on her lips. "It's nothing like Mom's." I gritted my teeth, stirring the sauce that just wouldn't thicken. "Well, I'm trying my best here." Sophia snorted. "Maybe your best isn't good enough. Did you ever think of that?" I wanted to snap back, to defend myself, but what was the point? It wouldn't change anything. Jake, whenever he was around, seemed to shrink a little more each time his sister or mother criticized me. He never stood up for me, his silence was as loud as their laughs. "Hey, Emily, just leave it," Jake would say quietly later, trying to avoid any confrontation. "It's not worth it." Dinner times were an ordeal. I'd set the dishes on the table, hoping for a peaceful meal, but it was like sitting down in a lion's den. "You know, in Italy, they'd probably ban you from the kitchen for this," Anna would joke as she tasted my food, the others chuckling along. "Yeah, maybe stick to what you know, gym stuff," Sophia would add, passing the salt like it was a peace offering I didn't deserve. I would nod, smile, and swallow the hurt, my frustration simmering like the sauce that never turned out right. Living with Jake's family made every day feel like a battle I wasn't prepared for. As my pregnancy progressed, the house chores, which already felt like they were all on me, became even more demanding. Instead of getting any help or understanding from Anna and Sophia, I felt their hostility grow stronger. One afternoon, I was trying to vacuum the living room, moving slower than usual, because of my growing belly. Anna walked in, watched me for a moment, and then let out a sigh that seemed to carry all her disapproval. "Emily, you missed a spot over there. And look at how slow you're moving. This house is going to fall apart at this rate," she said, pointing at a corner I hadn't gotten to yet. I straightened up, feeling the strain in my back. "I'm doing the best I can, Anna. It's a bit harder with the baby." She just sked and shook her head. "In my time, we didn't let a little thing like pregnancy slow us down. You need to toughen up." The lack of sympathy stung, and I bit my tongue to keep from snapping back. Sophia was no better. Later that day, as I was folding laundry, she came into the room and started flipping through the clothes I had just stacked neatly. "You do know these aren't folded right, don't you? They should be able to stand up on their own, like how Mom taught us. Here, let me show you." Again. She tossed the shirt she was holding back onto the pile, messing up what I had done. As she refolded the same shirt with sharp, practiced movements, I felt my frustration rise. "Sophia, I appreciate the lesson, but I've folded clothes before. I'm not an idiot." She just raised her eyebrows, a cold smile playing on her lips. Could have fooled me. But hey, if you're okay with being mediocre, who am I to argue? Her words felt like a slap, and for a moment, I just stood there, watching her make my efforts seem pointless. It was the same with cooking. Every meal I attempted was met with criticism or outright laughter, especially if I tried to make anything Italian. One evening, I decided to try again, making a simple pasta dish I thought I had mastered. I was stirring the pot when Sophia walked into the kitchen. "What's that supposed to be?" she asked, peering into the pot with a skeptical look. "It's spaghetti carbonara. I thought it might be nice for dinner," I said, hoping for a change in her usual harsh tone. She took a fork, twirled some pasta onto it, and tasted it with an exaggerated expression of disgust. "Nice? This is what you call nice? I wouldn't feed this to the dog. It's all wrong." I slammed the pot's lid down a little harder than necessary. "Well, it's what's for dinner, so if you don't like it, you're welcome to make something else." The tension in the house grew every day, and Jake's absence didn't help. He was always at the restaurant, always busy, and when he was home, he avoided any conflict. Whenever I tried to talk to him about how his sister and mother were treating me, he'd just sigh and say something like, "I know it's tough, Emily, but try to hang in there. They'll warm up to you eventually. Just give it time." After giving birth to my son, I hoped things might get better, but the reality was just the opposite. I had gained a good amount of weight during pregnancy, which became the new source of their mockery. "Look at how much she's eating." Anna would laugh as I tried to nourish myself for breastfeeding. "Are you feeding a child or a small army?" One day, while I was nursing my son in the living room, I heard Sophia mimic a cow's moo from the kitchen. The sound sliced through me, and tears pricked my eyes. It was clear they saw me as nothing more than a cow, a utility for my son. I reached my breaking point after the mocking, and the cold treatment at home became too much. I needed something for myself, a space where I wasn't just the criticized daughter-in-law or the underappreciated wife. That's when I decided to start my own YouTube channel and Instagram page. One morning, while Jake was at the restaurant and Sophia was out shopping, I set up my old camera in the corner of our cramped guest room, my new makeshift gym. "I'm doing this," I muttered to myself, adjusting the angle. "For me, not for them." I started recording simple workout videos, ones that could be done at home, especially appealing to moms like me who couldn't always hit the gym. It felt awkward at first, talking to a camera, pretending I was speaking to an audience who cared about what I had to say. But soon, it became my refuge. The first few videos were clumsy, my commentary stilted. "Hey everyone, it's Emily here, bringing you a quick 10-minute workout perfect for busy moms. Let's get started." My follower count started to grow, and with it, my confidence. I invested in a better camera, learned a bit about lighting and editing from online tutorials. My little project was turning into something real, something entirely mine. One afternoon, I was recording a new video, a low-impact cardio sequence, when Sophia barged into the room. "What the hell are you doing?" she snapped, her eyes darting from the camera to me. "You turning our home into your personal TV show now?" I paused the recording, my heart pounding not from the exercise, but from the confrontation. "Yes, I am actually. It's something important to me. I need something of my own, Sophia." She scoffed, looking around with disdain. "You think you're some kind of star? Please. Get over yourself, Emily." The words hurt, but I was getting better at handling her barbs. "Well, it's not like I have your approval for anything else around here. I might as well do one thing I enjoy." Sophia rolled her eyes and stormed out, but I didn't stop the camera for long. I resumed my session, my voice stronger than before. As my digital presence grew, so did the opportunities. Brands started reaching out to me, offering to send free products for me to use in my videos. Then came the offers for sponsored posts. The first time a brand offered me money to feature their product, I was in disbelief. "I can't believe they're paying me for this," I said to Jake over dinner one night, trying to share my excitement. "That's great, Emily," he said, though his tone was distracted, his mind on his restaurant troubles. "Just keep it quiet, okay? Mom and Sophia don't need to know about this." As I turned back to the dishes, a notification pinged on my phone. Another comment, another follower, another step away from the disdain and towards something beautifully ordinary, but all mine. "You're doing amazing, Emily. Thanks for sharing your journey," the comment read. My channel wasn't just a hobby anymore, it was a budding business, pulling in more cash than Jake's struggling restaurant. Soon, I was handing him $2,000 a month to cover the house bills, making it look like his contribution. Despite my success, Anna and Sophia still treated me like a freeloader. "She does nothing around here, just prances about making her silly videos," Anna would snipe when she thought I was out of earshot. Sophia was no better, echoing her mother's sentiments and adding her own barbs about how I should be doing more housework like a real woman. Then Jake's restaurant hit a rough patch. He came to me, looking more worn than I'd seen him in months. "The restaurant needs a cash injection badly. Can you help out? His eyes were pleading. I didn't hesitate, transferring $10,000 for what he called urgent developments. He was thankful, genuinely so, but it wasn't long before he was asking for more. Just another $5,000 for the bills this month, he said softly, almost ashamed. I agreed, because I could afford it, and because he was still the father of my son, who he absolutely adored. But deep down, I felt the imbalance growing, not just in our finances, but in our relationship too. Life at Jake's family home was always strained, but it turned unbearable when Sophia got married and brought her husband, Mark, to live with us. The house was packed, and any semblance of privacy or peace I had carved out for myself and my son vanished overnight. Anna, never one to mince words, started calling me lazy and a parasite right to my face. You do nothing around here, she'd snap as I tried to manage my online work while keeping an eye on my son. Just taking up space. It didn't help that Sophia was now expecting her first child, and Anna made it clear they needed more room, implying that my son and I were in the way. Soon, there'll be another baby in the house, and we can't have freeloaders taking up space, Anna declared one evening, her eyes darting pointedly in my direction. The atmosphere grew colder, and then, as if things couldn't get any worse, Jake announced he had to leave town for a few weeks to handle some urgent matters with his restaurant in another city. He packed up and left, kissing me and our son goodbye, oblivious to the storm he was leaving behind. I tried to keep things normal, taking my son to school and continuing with my videos in the park. But the day everything truly fell apart was like any other until it wasn't. After picking up my son from school, we walked back home, chatting about his day, only to find our belongings, suitcases, bags of clothes, and even my son's toys, piled up outside the front door. Confused and heartbroken, I rang the doorbell, only to be greeted by the cold faces of Anna and Sophia through the window. They opened the door just a crack, enough to speak but not enough to let us in. You need to find somewhere else to stay, Anna said, her voice harsh and unwavering. What are you talking about? What about Jake? What will I tell him? I demanded, my voice rising in panic and anger. Sophia laughed, a cruel, cutting sound. Tell him whatever you want. He's not here to care, is he? I tried calling Jake, but my calls went unanswered, sinking me deeper into a mix of despair and fury. With no other options, I gathered our things and managed to get us a room at a nearby hotel. Sitting there, in that impersonal room with my confused and upset son, I felt a shift inside me. This wasn't just a temporary retreat, it was a forced eviction from a life I could no longer tolerate. I had just finished unpacking our essentials when my phone pinged with a new message. It was from Sophia, which was odd because we hardly communicated directly, especially not since the fallout. Her message was shockingly cheerful. Thought you might want to see what your beloved husband has been up to, accompanied by a link. Curiosity piqued and anxiety tightening in my chest, I clicked the link. It redirected me to a social media page filled with photos of Jake, photos that showed him not on some urgent business trip as he claimed, but enjoying cozy dinners and walks on the beach with another woman. The timestamp on the latest photo, just yesterday. I sat there, numb, the phone slipping slightly from my hand as the realization hit me. He wasn't just away on business, he was living a whole other life without us. Anger, sharp and bitter, bubbled up, but before I could drown in it, my son tugged at my sleeve. Mommy, are you okay? His small voice, filled with concern, pulled me back from the edge. I forced a smile, scooping him up into my arms. Yeah, buddy, I'm okay. Just a little tired, that's all. I sat there, staring at the screen, a mix of anger and betrayal coursing through me. All this time, I had been the financial backbone for his failing restaurant and for his family, who had just thrown me and my son out like yesterday's garbage. And here he was, living a double life at my expense. Over the next week, my phone was incessantly buzzing with calls from Jake. When I finally answered, his voice was laced with feigned concern. Emily, where are you guys? I heard about what happened. You should come back. We have bills to sort out, and the restaurant needs more funding. His words made my blood boil, but I kept my tone neutral. Sure, Jake. We can discuss it. I'll come by tomorrow. Great, I really think it's best to handle these things in person, he replied, sounding relieved. Hanging up, I felt a cold determination settle over me. He had no idea that I knew about his affair, or that I had no intention of playing the forgiving wife who footed his bills. Tomorrow's meeting would be a turning point, and I was ready for it. Dropping my son off at school that morning felt like the calm before the storm. As I drove to my mother-in-law Anna's house, where I knew Jake, Anna, and my pregnant sister-in-law, Sophia, would be waiting, my stomach churned with nerves and resolve. When I arrived, Jake was obviously relieved and maybe even a bit happy to see me, unlike Anna and Sophia, whose faces were marked with discontent. Without wasting any time, I pulled out the divorce papers from my bag and handed them to Jake. His shock was palpable, his eyes widening as he scanned the documents. Anna and Sophia couldn't contain their initial reactions and began to smile, thinking this was their victory. That smile quickly faded when I addressed them. Don't be too quick to celebrate. You've been living off my efforts all this time. Jake's face fell as he admitted to them. The restaurant isn't doing well. It hasn't been for a long time. The revelation sparked immediate outrage from Anna and Sophia. They turned on him, their earlier glee replaced with anger as they scolded him for keeping them in the dark and for losing what they considered their financial safety net, me. Sophia, ever the brazen one, sneered at me. Well, since Jake makes less than you, he'll just have to file for alimony. How's that for justice? Jake perked up at this, nodding eagerly, as if it were some sort of twisted victory. I almost laughed at the absurdity. That's where you're wrong, Sophia. And Jake, I continued, turning to face him squarely. You won't see a cent for alimony. I know about the affair. The color drained from his face. How did you? Your sister sent me everything. Pictures, dates, places, I said, pointing to Sophia, whose face turned a shade paler. Thanks to her, I have all the evidence I need. What followed was a furious back and forth among them, a mess of accusations and denials. I let them drown in their quarrel for a moment before speaking up again. I'm also taking back everything I paid for. Every appliance, every piece of furniture. Their arguing ceased as the reality of the situation hit them. I had already arranged for movers, and as they began hauling away the refrigerator, the washing machine, the flat-screen TV, and even the fancy blender I had bought last Christmas, Anna and Sophia watched, their faces streaked with tears and disbelief. You can't do this. We need those things. Anna cried out, her voice breaking. I did do this, and I need them too, I replied, my voice steady but not unkind. The movers continued their work, clearing out nearly half of what filled their home. As I watched them take away the last of the items, a weight lifted off my shoulders. I was no longer tied to this house, these people, or their deceit. I turned back to see Jake, who now looked small and defeated, his dreams of easy money evaporating. Take care of your sister and your mother, Jake. That's your job now, I said, not unkindly, before turning to leave. As I walked away, I knew that this was more than just a physical departure. It was my final step out of their manipulative grasp, a move towards reclaiming my life and securing a better future for my son and myself. After everything, the divorce was more of a relief than a burden. I filed for compensation due to Jake's infidelity and secured alimony for our son. My lawyer handled everything, making the process as smooth as possible under the circumstances. Life changed dramatically for Jake's family too. His restaurant, unable to stay afloat without my financial support, finally went bankrupt. The family house was sold off to cover debts, a stark testament to their unsustainable lifestyle. Meanwhile, Anna and Sophia, left scrambling, tried reaching out to me, their messages a mix of apologies and pleas for help. But after everything, I couldn't let myself be pulled back into their chaos. I blocked their numbers without a second thought. Sophia's husband left her, and now the whole lot of them, Jake, his mom, his sister, and her child, live crammed into a small rented apartment. It's a tough situation, but one they brought upon themselves. In contrast, life for me and Alex is looking up. We've settled into a nice rhythm in our own rented apartment, a cozy place that feels more like home every day. My YouTube channel and Instagram page have really taken off, resonating with women, especially new moms who are trying to find their way back to fitness. Seeing the positive impact of my work has inspired a new idea, launching online fitness courses specifically tailored for postpartum women. I'm excited about the possibilities and the chance to help others who have been in my shoes. There was so much to do, but for the first time in a long while, the future seemed bright and brimming with potential. Here in our little sanctuary, with my son's laughter echoing off the walls, I felt a profound sense of peace. We had made it through the storm, and now, it was our time to shine. I'm Anna, and here's the straight scoop about how it all started. I met Jack back in high school. He was the kind of guy everyone noticed. Captain of the football team, always surrounded by a crowd, and there I was, always buried in my textbooks, aiming for straight A's. We were worlds apart, yet somehow, he noticed me. It was during one of those rare afternoons when I was actually outside, on the bleachers, trying to understand physics while half watching a practice game. He came over, sweaty and grinning, and plopped down next to me. "Hey, genius, help me out here. If I throw a football in a perfect parabola, will it impress you enough to come to the spring dance with me?" He joked, or at least I thought he was joking. I remember looking at him, the sun forming a halo around his messy hair, and laughing despite myself. "Impress me with your grades, not your throws, and we'll talk." From then on, Jack made it his mission to impress me, and impress me he did. He started showing up with his homework done, asking for study tips instead of flirting. Well, there was still flirting, but less obvious, you know? By the time the dance rolled around, I said yes, more out of curiosity than anything. We dated through the rest of high school. It wasn't always smooth, but we stuck it out, went to the same college. I majored in education, and he struggled to find his path, bouncing from one major to another. I was buried in books, and he was, as usual, the life of every party. Somehow, we made it work. He'd drag me out to parties, and I'd make him hit the books. We balanced each other out, or so I thought. After college, Jack proposed at our graduation party. It was loud, messy, totally him. He didn't get down on one knee, nothing that cliché. He just leaned over during the loud cheers, his breath smelling of beer, and yelled over the noise, "Marry me, Anna. I'm serious." It was so Jack, so spontaneous. I laughed, the sound lost in the chaos, and shouted back, "Yes, why the hell not?" We got married in a small ceremony. Only family and a few close friends. Jack looked serious for once, his eyes telling me this was the real deal. We were young, in love, and ready to take on the world. A year later, Emily came into our lives, turning our world upside down in the best way possible. She was a tiny bundle of energy, always giggling, with Jack's eyes and my stubborn chin. Life became a series of nappies, baby giggles, and trying to catch a good night's sleep. Jack took a part-time job to be around more, while I dove back into teaching as soon as maternity leave was over. I loved teaching, loved my kids at school, but it meant long hours, extra tutoring after classes to make ends meet. Our life was a mad dash from morning till night. Every morning was like clockwork. I'd be up before the crack of dawn, scrambling eggs and flipping pancakes, while the coffee brewed loud and strong. Then I'd drop Emily off at the nanny's, who was practically a second mom to her by now, and then it was off to work for me. Teaching wasn't just a 9-to-5 job for me. There were extra classes, after-school tutoring, and endless grading. I did it all to scrape together enough to chip away at our house loan and stash something away for retirement. Jack worked part-time, which helped, but it wasn't enough to ease up on the hours I needed to put in. When I'd finally get home, the house would be a mess, dinner half-made, and Jack looking like he'd wrestled a tornado. "You're late again." He'd start in as soon as I stepped through the door, his voice tight with frustration. I'm pulling double shifts at school, Jack. You know this, I'd reply, trying to keep the tiredness from seeping into my voice. And I'm here cleaning and cooking and looking after Emily. You think that's easy? He'd argue back, his face a mix of anger and exhaustion. I understood where he was coming from, I really did. But it wasn't like I had a choice. Look, I'm doing the best I can here. We've got bills to pay, and Emily's not getting any cheaper with all her school stuff. Jack's face would soften a bit at that. I know, Anna, it's just... I get tired too, you know? And when you're late, it throws everything off. That would usually end the argument, at least for the night. We'd sit down to whatever he'd managed to put together, usually something with pasta, his go-to meal. Emily would chatter about her day, blissfully unaware of the tension. I'd go check on Emily, help her with homework or watch a bit of TV with her, trying to make up for the hours I missed. By the time her bedtime rolled around, I'd be ready to collapse. Lately, though, Jack had started making snide remarks about my late nights. With all the time you spend at school, who knows? Maybe there's a handsome math teacher keeping you late, he'd say, half joking, but with a sharp edge. I laughed it off the first time, but he kept at it. Jack, you think I have time for a lover? I barely have time to pee during the day. I retorted once, trying to lighten the mood. He didn't smile. Just saying, it's a lot of late nights, Anna. I know, and I'm sorry, but there's no one else, Jack. Just stacks of papers and a bunch of kids who can't figure out fractions. That's my wild affair, I'd say, trying to reassure him. But somehow, I could tell he wasn't convinced. His jokes became less frequent, and his glances more questioning. As Emily hit her teens, the simple, structured days began to crumble. It started with her locking herself in her room right after school, emerging only for meals. One evening, I knocked on her door, balancing a tray with a sandwich and juice. Dinner's ready. Don't eat in here, come join us, I called through the door. The answer was a muffled, not hungry. The lock clicked, a small but clear barrier she put up daily. Jack was already at the table, flipping through some bills, his brow furrowed. When I set his plate down, he barely glanced up. She eating in her room again? He asked, not really asking. Yeah, she says she's not hungry, I replied, sinking into my chair with a sigh. Jack shook his head, pushing his plate away slightly. We can't keep letting her do this, Anna. She needs to be part of the family, not holed up like a hermit. The weeks rolled on, each one straining the seams of our family fabric a bit more. Jack's comments about my late nights grew sharper, his patience thinner. Another meeting today? He'd ask as I grabbed my keys in the morning. Yeah, parent-teacher conferences. You know how it is, I'd answer, trying to keep my voice light. Do I? Seems like your meetings could be a cover for just about anything, he'd reply, the suspicion barely veiled. Really, Jack? We're going to do this now? I'd snap back, frustration boiling over. There's nothing going on. I'm just working, for us, for Emily. He'd hold up his hands, a gesture of surrender, but his eyes were cold. Just saying, it's a lot of nights out. Makes a guy wonder. It was a jab, and it stung more each time. Our conversations became a series of accusations and defenses, a far cry from the teamwork we used to pride ourselves on. One particularly rough evening, Emily stayed at the table with us. Jack was off again on my supposed secrets, and I was too tired to fight. Jack, please, not in front of Emily, I hissed, my voice low but fierce. Emily, her eyes wide and watchful, finally spoke up. Why can't you both just stop? Her voice broke, a mix of anger and despair. Stop fighting all the time. Her outburst shocked us into silence. Jack looked down, his anger deflating. I reached out, trying to touch her hand, but she pulled away, her chair scraping back as she stood. I'm tired of this. It's always the same. You're both always mad, she said, her voice shaky. Without another word, she left the table, her footsteps heavy as she retreated to her room. Emily's 13th birthday was supposed to be a blast, a break from all the tension that had been building up at home. She had been eyeing this new smartphone for months, buzzing about all the things she could do with it, apps, photos, you name it. Knowing how much she loved tech stuff, I nudged Jack about getting it for her. It's perfect for her. She won't stop talking about it, I told him one evening as we were planning the party. Jack, though a bit hesitant about the cost, agreed. All right, let's get it. She deserves something nice, with everything going on. We planned an outdoor party, nothing too fancy, but I made sure everything was beautifully set up, balloons, streamers, and a piñata filled with all sorts of goodies. Emily's friends and their parents came over, and for a while, it felt like the old days, laughter filling our backyard. The highlight, of course, was the gift opening. Emily tore through the wrapping paper, her face lighting up when she saw the smartphone. Oh my gosh, thank you, thank you. She was practically bouncing with joy, showing it off to her friends. But the happiness didn't last long. About half an hour later, she came up to me, her face stormy. I don't want this, she said abruptly, pushing the phone into my hands. I was confused. What? Em, you've wanted this for months. What's wrong? Before I could get another word in, she grabbed the phone back and threw it against the wall. The screen shattered with a sickening crack, and the room went silent. Everyone was staring, and I felt my face heat up with embarrassment. Emily, what on earth are you doing? I snapped, my voice louder than I intended. Your father spent a lot of money on that. It was expensive, and you begged for it. She didn't respond, just glared at me with tears brimming in her eyes, then turned and stormed off to her room, slamming the door behind her. The party broke up awkwardly after that. I apologized to the guests, trying to smooth things over, but the festive mood was ruined. I'm so sorry about all this, I told them, my voice shaking a bit. I don't know what got into her. When the last guest left, I tried talking to Emily, knocking softly on her locked door. Honey, please, can we talk about what happened? I don't understand why you did that. There was no answer, just the heavy silence that had fallen over the house. Jack put a hand on my shoulder. Let her cool down. We'll sort it out later. The morning after Emily's outburst, the house was eerily quiet. Jack left early for work, a tense goodbye hanging between us. I needed to understand what happened, so I waited for Emily to come down for breakfast. Em, can we talk about yesterday? I asked gently as she picked at her toast. She sighed, setting down her knife. Mom, I found something on the phone right after I turned it on. There was a spy app installed. My stomach turned. A spy app? How did you find that? Emily rolled her eyes, a flash of her old self. Mom, I know my way around tech, remember? I checked the system apps and found one that didn't belong. It lets someone listen in and track where I am. I felt a chill run down my spine. Did you check other phones, at home? Yes, last night. Yours had the same app. Dad's didn't. The room seemed to spin. He put spy apps on our phones? Why would he? He's been acting weird, Mom. Like he doesn't trust us, Emily said, her voice trembling slightly. I was reeling from the betrayal. I need to handle this carefully, I muttered more to myself than to Emily. Let's keep quiet about this for now. I spent the day distracted, anger boiling inside me. As soon as I could, I took my phone to a service center. The tech there confirmed the worst. Yes, ma'am, this is definitely spyware. Pretty advanced too. Can you remove it? I asked, my voice steady, despite the storm inside. Sure thing, it'll just take a few minutes. As I waited, I thought about all the late nights, the strange questions from Jack about my whereabouts, his unfounded accusations. He didn't trust me. He'd invaded my privacy, our daughter's privacy, because of his insecurities. When the tech handed back my phone, spyware-free, I thanked him and drove home, a plan forming in my mind. I wasn't ready to confront Jack, not yet. I needed to think, to decide how to deal with his betrayal without losing my cool. Ever since the incident with the spyware, the dynamic between Emily and me shifted dramatically. We started sharing more, not just mother and daughter talk, but real secrets, the kind that showed we trusted each other on a whole new level. One evening, while we were clearing up the dinner dishes, Emily casually mentioned something that caught me off guard. "Mom, did you know Dad goes to the other side of the city a lot in his free time?" She wiped down the counter, her voice nonchalant. I paused, a dish halfway to the cupboard. "No, he never mentioned that. Did he say why?" She shrugged. "Nope, but he's been doing it a lot. Just thought it was weird." That nagged at me more than I wanted to admit. Why hadn't Jack mentioned these trips? What was on that side of the city that drew him away from home? The doubts and the betrayal from the spyware were still fresh, and this new piece of information didn't sit right with me. Determined to get to the bottom of it, I contacted a private investigator, a guy named Martinez who came highly recommended. I laid out everything for him, Jack's recent behavior, the secret trips, the whole spyware debacle. Martinez listened, his expression unreadable, and promised to dig into it. It took a couple of weeks before I heard back from him. When my phone rang and I saw Martinez's name, my heart sank. I wasn't sure I was ready for what he might say, but I needed to know. "Mrs. Anna, we need to meet," was all he said before we arranged to meet at a quiet cafe away from our usual spots. Sitting across from Martinez, the hum of the cafe around us, I braced myself. "I found out where your husband has been going," he started, his voice low. "He's been seeing someone. A younger woman, on the other side of the city. They've been meeting regularly for about a year now." My world stopped. A year. The lies, the deceit, it was almost too much to process. Martinez continued. "She's been pushing him to divorce you, planning to marry him. She even suggested he track you, hoping to catch you in a compromising situation that could help him in the divorce." I felt sick. The spyware on Emily's phone, on mine, it was all a setup, a way to trap me. And, what did they find? My voice was barely a whisper. "Nothing. There was nothing incriminating on your phone. That's when they decided to put the app on your daughter's phone, to gather anything that could be used." I sat there, numb, the cafe's noise fading into a buzz. Betrayed by my husband, spied on, because of his own guilt. The irony was bitter. I didn't tell Emily the details when I got home. But she saw the photos sticking out of my bag, pictures of Jack with another woman, laughing, looking happy. Emily saw the truth in my face, before I broke down and told her everything. That night, she didn't say much. She just hugged me as I cried, her arms tight around me. We spent the night in her room, the space between us filled with a new, sad understanding. Jack came home late, as if it were just another day. He smiled, asked how our day was, oblivious to the storm inside me. I didn't confront him, not yet. I couldn't let him know that I knew everything, not until I had figured out what to do next. The next day, armed with the address the detective had given me, I drove across town to an apartment complex I'd never been to before. My hands were trembling slightly as I pressed the buzzer for the apartment. The door swung open to reveal a young woman, her makeup bright and her outfit scanty. She looked me up and down with a mix of confusion and defiance. "Can I help you?" "I need to speak with Jack," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She tried to protest, but I just pushed her away and went inside. I found Jack in the living room, his expression turning to one of shock and fear when he saw me. "Anna, this isn't what it looks like," he stammered, standing up quickly. "Save it, Jack. I know everything." I cut him off, my voice cold and firm. "I'm here to tell you face to face that I'm filing for divorce. And I expect compensation from both of you for this betrayal." Jack's face paled. "Anna, please, let me explain." Before he could continue, the door burst open and Emily walked in. My heart stopped for a second. "Emily, what are you doing here? How did you even get here?" "I took a taxi," she said, her voice trembling but her chin high. I needed to see who Dad was choosing over us. Jack tried to approach us, desperation in his eyes. I love you both. I'm not going to let this go so easily. We can fix this. But before more words could be exchanged, his mistress, who had been silently fuming by the door, stormed over to him. She started hitting him, her sobs loud as she clung to his legs. You promised you wouldn't leave me, she screamed. The scene was chaotic and pathetic. I looked at Jack, caught in the grasp of a woman he had risked his family for, and felt nothing but disgust. I grabbed Emily's hand. Let's go home, I said quietly. As we left, Jack's pleas echoed down the stairwell, mixing with the cries of his mistress. But they were just background noise, a sad, desperate soundtrack to the end of our family as we had known it. After the confrontation, the air at home felt different, like a storm had passed, leaving quiet calm in its wake. Emily and I spent the next few days in a kind of unspoken agreement, taking care of each other without bringing up the mess with Jack again. But we both knew we had to figure out our next steps. One evening, I was sorting through some bills when Emily sat down across from me, her expression serious. Mom, what are we going to do now? I set the papers aside, knowing this conversation was more important. Well, we need to take care of the divorce proceedings first. I've already talked to a lawyer. Emily nodded, biting her lip. And us? Where do we go from here? I reached across the table, taking her hands in mine. We start fresh, Em. Just you and me. We'll be okay. We're stronger than we think. The next weeks were a whirlwind. Meeting with lawyers, signing papers, and dealing with the endless back and forth of legal requirements. Jack tried to reach out a few times, but I kept the interactions brief, always through the lawyer. I couldn't trust myself to face him without old wounds tearing open again. Emily was focused on her online courses, her way of coping by throwing herself into her studies. Mom, can you help me with this application? I'm trying to enroll in a more advanced tech program. Sure, let me see. I sat next to her, looking over the application. It was good to see her taking charge of her future, something positive growing from the ruins of our past troubles. As the days turned into weeks, the divorce was finalized. The relief was palpable. The judge granted me the house and a fair settlement. Jack was required to pay support, but I wasn't going to rely on that. It was time to stand on our own 2 feet. One quiet evening, Emily and I celebrated our new beginning with a simple dinner. To us, I toasted, raising my glass of water. To us, Emily echoed, clinking her glass against mine. We've got a lot of rebuilding to do, I said, looking around at the home we'd need to reshape into something new, just for us. But we can make it ours, make it something great, Emily added, her tone hopeful. Yes, we can. It's going to be different, but it's going to be good, I assured her, and myself. As we ate, we planned out what we wanted to change in the house, what colors to paint the walls, and how we'd rearrange the living room. It was more than just redecorating, it was claiming our space, turning it into a sanctuary for the two of us. Life has a funny way of sorting itself out. Sitting in our living room, the mortgage papers in front of me stamped, paid in full, I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Emily and I, we were finally free from one hefty burden, thanks to the settlement that Jack and his mistress ended up paying. Emily was sprawled on the couch, her laptop open as she tinkered with some new software she was excited about. Mom, check this out, she called, waving me over. I walked over and peered at her screen, amazed at her knack for coding. Looks complicated, but I bet it's something awesome. She laughed. It is. I'm just trying to make it user-friendly. Not everyone is a nerd like me. I ruffled her hair affectionately. Proud nerd, you mean? Our laughter filled the room, a sound so different from the tense whispers and strained silence of the past. Since paying off the house and settling into our new routine, the calls from Jack had been a constant annoyance. He kept saying he'd changed, that he left his mistress and wanted us back. But that ship had sailed, and I wasn't about to let him chart our course again. Just last night, he'd called again, his voice a mix of desperation and hope. Anna, I've made mistakes, but I'm different now. Can't we try again? For Emily's sake? I had been firm, my response cutting the conversation short. Jack, it's too late for maybes and what-ifs. Emily and I are moving on. This is our final goodbye. After hanging up, I changed my number. No more calls, no more empty promises. Emily knew about it and supported the decision. Was that Dad again? She had asked, her tone wary. Yeah, but it's handled. New beginnings, remember? I replied, trying to keep the mood light. She nodded, coming over to give me a hug. I'm glad it's just us now. We're better off, Mom. And she was right. We were better off, financially and emotionally. I enrolled in a few online courses to enhance my teaching credentials, and Emily was diving deeper into her tech projects. We were not just surviving, we were thriving. Sometimes, late at night, I'd sit on the porch, sipping tea, and reflect on everything that had happened. The pain, the betrayal, but also the immense growth and the unbreakable bond it had forged between Emily and me. I'm Sarah, an ER doc with more caffeine in my veins than blood. My life's a blur of beeping machines and 3 a.m. code blues. Social life? What's that? Tonight, though, my friends weren't having any of my excuses. You're coming out with us, Sarah. End of discussion, Jess declared, her voice leaving no room for my usual I'm too busy line. So, there I was, shoved into a dress I forgot I owned, standing awkwardly at a loud party packed with strangers mostly younger than me. The bass from the speakers made the glasses on the makeshift bar rattle. It was the kind of scene I'd usually avoid like the plague, but Jess was on a mission. Loosen up, Sarah. It's just a party, not a freaking exam. Jess nudged me with her elbow, handing me a drink that looked like it could glow in the dark. I don't know, Jess. This isn't really my scene, I murmured, scanning the room. It felt like stepping into another world where the stress of the ER didn't exist. Give it an hour. If you're miserable, we'll bail. Fair? She bargained. Before I could argue, someone bumped into me, sloshing my drink down my front. Shit, I'm sorry, a voice exclaimed. I looked up, ready to unleash a hospital-grade scowl, but stopped short. The guy was about my age, tall, with an easy smile and a helpless shrug. I'm a klutz, he confessed, his eyes crinkling in amusement at his own clumsiness. It's fine. It's just a drink, I replied, my irritation fading faster than I expected. I'm Alex. And you are? He extended his hand, still smiling. Sarah. And a bit damp now, thanks to you. I joked, surprising myself with how quickly I warmed up to his demeanor. Let me make it up to you. Can I buy you another drink? One that stays in the glass this time? Alex offered. I hesitated, glancing at Jess, who was practically bouncing with excitement. Go on, she mouthed. Sure, why not? I found myself saying. Alex beamed and led the way to the bar. So, Sarah, what do you do when you're not being assaulted by drinks at parties? Alex asked as he handed me a safer choice this time, a glass of red wine. I patch people up. I'm a doctor, I answered, taking a sip to hide the nerves I didn't expect to feel. Wow, that's intense. I sell construction materials. It's as exciting as it sounds, he played along. But hey, it pays the bills and doesn't involve blood, so I'm not complaining. We found a quieter corner, away from the thumping bass, and talked more. He was easy to talk to, no pretenses, just straightforward chatter. He didn't flinch at my ER stories, and his anecdotes about mishaps at construction sites were unexpectedly hilarious. As the night wound down, Alex pulled out his phone. Can I get your number? I mean, if you want to grab coffee or something less wet, he chuckled. I laughed, the sound more relaxed and genuine than it had been in months. Sure, why not? As I lay in bed later that night, phone buzzing with a good night text from Alex, I realized I was smiling. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't such a bad idea. A year flew by, and before I knew it, we were swapping rings and saying I do. Sitting at our new kitchen table, Alex broke the silence one evening. "So, when do you think we should start trying for a baby?" he asked, his eyes searching mine for a hint of readiness. I sighed, pushing my plate aside. "Alex, we've talked about this. We agreed, remember? Careers first, kids later. I'm not even sure I'm ready to be a mom yet." He leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight. I know. It's just, my mom keeps asking. You know how she is." I stood up, feeling the walls of the kitchen close in. "We are not having a baby just because your mom can't wait. That's ridiculous." The next few weeks were filled with similar conversations. It wasn't just Alex, his mom called almost daily with the same nagging question. One evening, after a long shift, I picked up her call by mistake. "So, any good news yet?" she chirped as soon as I said hello. "Hi, Linda. No news. We're still not planning on kids right now," I replied, trying to keep my voice even. "You know, Sarah, you aren't getting any younger. And Alex really wants to be a dad. You should think about your husband's needs too," Linda said, her voice stern and unwavering. I clenched my phone tighter. "Linda, I appreciate your concern, but please, this is between Alex and me. We'll have kids when we're both ready, not because we're pressured into it." She huffed. "Well, I just think you're being selfish. A baby would bring so much joy to the family." "I'm not being selfish, Linda. I'm being sensible. Goodbye." I hung up, my heart pounding with anger. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure didn't let up. At work, my days were packed, the ER demanding all the energy I could muster. Home wasn't much of a sanctuary either with the constant baby talk. One late night, as I came home exhausted, Alex was waiting up. "Hey, can we talk?" he asked softly, noticing my weary eyes. "Sure, what's up?" I replied, dropping my keys and sinking into the sofa. "It's about the baby thing again," he started, hesitating. "I know we said we'd wait, but maybe we could just start thinking about it. Like, not trying, but not trying?" I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. "Alex, I can't do this tonight. I just worked a double shift. Can we talk about this later?" He nodded, disappointment clear in his eyes. "Yeah, okay. Get some rest." The following morning, as Alex and I sipped our coffee in silence, I knew something had to give. "Alex, I love you, but we can't keep having this conversation. It's wearing me down. We need to stick to our plan, or I don't know how I'll handle it." Alex looked at me, his expression softening. "I'm sorry, babe. It's just hard with mom always on my back. But you're right. We'll do this our way. I'll talk to her, I promise." One evening, coming home earlier than usual, something felt off. The house was quiet, too quiet for someone supposedly eager to see me. Tossing my keys on the counter, I heard voices from the office. Creeping closer, it wasn't the TV, Alex was on a call. Hiding by the doorway, I heard him, "Yeah, Mom, I know. But it's been months, and nothing." No, she still thinks she's taking her birth control. The floor felt like it dropped from beneath me. My heart pounded so loud, I was sure he'd hear it. "You replaced them, right?" That was his mother's voice, tinny but clear from the speakerphone. "Yes, like I told you. Just vitamins now. If she's not pregnant soon, maybe there's something wrong with her," Alex replied, a casual toss of life-changing deceit. I couldn't breathe, let alone move. When I finally stepped into the room, Alex jumped, fumbling the phone. "Sarah, you're home early." "Cut the crap, Alex. What did you just say?" My voice was ice, each word sharp enough to cut. Alex's face went through 50 shades of panic. "Look, we want a family, right? And you said later?" But later when? I thought maybe if things just started to happen, you'd. You messed with my meds, Alex? You played with my body like it's some kind of test run? I was screaming now, too loud, too raw. He tried to reach out, probably for comfort, but I slapped his hand away. Don't touch me. You and your mother plotted behind my back, treating me like I'm some broodmare? It's not like that, Sarah. It's just, I want a kid so bad. And Mom, she's always on about it. I thought if you got pregnant, you'd be happy. Happy? I was nearly breathless with rage. You decided to trick me into being happy? We need to calm down. Let's just sit and talk about this. We can fix it, Alex pleaded, his voice a mix of desperation and stupidity. There's nothing to fix, Alex. You broke us. You broke everything. I grabbed my coat, storming past him, his apologies just noise in the chaotic storm inside me. Family means everything to me, so despite the betrayal, I agreed to meet Alex halfway. We needed to clear up any doubts about our health, especially since he'd been messing with my birth control. We decided to get checked out at the clinic where I work, which made me feel a tad more in control of the situation. The day we went in for testing, the clinic was quiet, familiar. I felt my colleagues' curious eyes on us, but they respected my privacy. After the tests, the wait for the results felt like an eternity. Alex tried to make small talk, maybe to ease his guilt, but I just couldn't. When the results came in, I was alone in my office. I opened the envelope with a mix of fear and hope. My results were clear, no issues at all. Then I looked at Alex's. My heart sank reading the words, male infertility due to a physiological issue. It meant that all along, the problem wasn't me, and all his accusations and manipulations were for nothing. I needed a second opinion, just to be absolutely sure. I called up my friend Mara, a reproductologist. Hey, Mara, can you look over some test results for me? It's important. Mara met me for coffee, and I handed her the documents discreetly. She reviewed them quietly, her expression serious. Finally, she looked up. Sarah, these results are conclusive. Alex can't father a child. I'm really sorry. The news was a relief and a weight all at once. I thanked her and walked back to the clinic in a daze. How was I supposed to break this to Alex? He wanted kids so badly, he'd deceived me. But telling him he was the reason for our childless marriage felt like kicking him when he was down. So, I made a decision. That evening, as we sat in our living room, the setting sun casting long shadows, Alex turned to me, anxious. So, what did the tests say? I looked at him, my heart heavy with the secret I was about to keep. We're both fine, Alex. There are just some minor issues, nothing we can't handle. We just need to keep trying. He exhaled, relief washing over his face, and I felt a pang of guilt for the lie. That's great, Sarah. I was worried. We can work through this, right? Yeah, we can try. My words felt hollow even to my own ears. We spent the next few days in a tentative peace, but the lie festered inside me. I watched Alex as he started making plans, talking about future kids with a hope that stung my conscience. I tried to feel happy, to share in his optimism, but the truth was a barrier between us. One night, unable to sleep, I slipped out of bed and went to the living room. The moonlight streamed through the window, casting shadows that seemed to mock my turmoil. I dialed Mara's number. Mara, it's me. I lied to him. Told him we're both okay. Mara was silent for a moment. Sarah, I get why you did it, but this isn't something you can hide forever. He's going to find out eventually. I know, but how can I crush him with this? After everything, how can I be the one to break him completely? It's not about breaking him, Sarah. It's about being honest with each other. This lie won't help either of you in the long run. Life threw us a curveball when Alex got offered a big promotion. It was a fantastic opportunity for him, but it meant moving to another state. I could see how much it meant to him, how his eyes lit up talking about the possibilities. He wanted it, and he wanted me there with him. Despite everything, our private struggles and the lies hanging between us, I said yes. Family was supposed to stick together, right? Leaving my job at the bustling ER in our hometown was harder than I thought. I loved the place, the pace, and the people. I was part of a team, a community. Moving meant leaving all that behind for a quieter, smaller clinic that, frankly, didn't spark the same passion in me. But I kept these feelings to myself. Alex was riding high on his new job, and I didn't want to be the rain on his parade. Our new life in a new city was different. I landed a job at a private clinic. It was okay, but it lacked the adrenaline rush of my previous ER shifts. I missed my old colleagues and friends terribly. The move also took its toll on our personal life. Alex buried himself in his work, and the issues we skirted around, like the ticking bomb of our non-existent family planning, started to resurface, but differently this time. Every month, like clockwork, Alex's mom would ring him up to ask if there was any good news. I wasn't privy to their conversations, but I could see the change in Alex afterward. He grew more distant, more sullen. One evening, after one such call, he let it all out on me. "We're not getting any younger, Sarah. You're a doctor. Shouldn't you be able to sort this out? Figure something out?" His words were like slaps, harsh and blaming. I was setting the table for dinner, and his words made me pause, hands trembling slightly. "Alex, that's not fair. You know it's not that simple." He scoffed, tossing his phone on the couch. "What's not fair is you not doing enough. Maybe if you were home more, instead of always at your new job, things might be different. That's not how it works, and you know it. Being at home more isn't going to change our situation," I shot back, frustration boiling over. His ignorance, or was it denial, about our real issues was maddening. He turned away, muttering something under his breath about how maybe a better doctor would have fixed it already. I wanted to scream, to tell him the truth about his own condition, but I bit my tongue. Telling him wouldn't just hurt him, it could shatter whatever was left of us. So, I swallowed the truth, along with my anger, and kept the peace. As the months turned into a year, and then two, the pattern continued. Alex started staying late at work, often going away on weekends. His excuse was always the same: "I don't want to sit at home alone waiting for you to finish work." Each time he said it, it stung. It felt like an excuse, a way to avoid facing our reality together. I spent many nights alone, wondering if the gap between us was growing too wide to bridge. Our wedding anniversary was supposed to be a milestone, a celebration. I decided to make it special, despite the growing distance between Alex and me. I took a few days off, booked a cozy hotel, and planned a surprise dinner at one of the nicer restaurants in town, thinking maybe, just maybe, we could rekindle something. The day came, and I was a bundle of nerves, mixed with a bit of excitement. I left work early, got dressed up, and headed home to pick up Alex so we could start our evening together. But when I got there, the house was empty. No note, no text. Nothing. I called him, no answer. I tried not to panic and called again. Still, nothing. That's when I remembered the tracking app we both casually used to keep tabs on each other's whereabouts. I pulled up the app, hesitating for a moment, before I tapped the screen. There he was, not at work like he said he'd be, but at some restaurant across town. A part of me hoped, ridiculously, that he was planning his own surprise. Maybe this was some elaborate setup? Clinging to this hope, I caught a taxi and headed to the address on the app. I arrived at the restaurant, my heart pounding in my chest. I walked in, scanning the room until I found him. There he was, sitting in a dim corner, but he wasn't alone. Across from him was a woman, blonde, laughing at something he said. My stomach turned as I watched him reach out and touch her hand, his smile wide and genuine in a way I hadn't seen in months. I stood there, frozen, as he leaned closer to her, whispering something that made her laugh again. That's when he did it, reached over and gently stroked her stomach. It was a small gesture, but it told me everything I didn't want to know. Feeling like I was going to be sick, I backed out of the restaurant. Once outside, I let the cool evening air hit my face, trying to collect my shattered thoughts. I should confront them, make a scene, something, but I couldn't. Instead, I got into the taxi, my hands shaking, and told the driver to just drive. As we moved away, my mind raced. All the late nights, the weekends away. It wasn't just work. It was her. Maybe it had always been her. Suddenly, I remembered the clinic results then, how they said Alex was infertile. A bitter laugh escaped me as I realized the absurdity of the situation. His mistress couldn't be pregnant by him. The irony was too much, and for a moment, I actually grinned amidst the tears. The taxi pulled up to our house, and I went inside one last time. I packed quickly, grabbing only what was necessary. Clothes, some personal items, and my dignity. I left behind anything that reminded me of Alex, of us. With my bags in hand, I called another taxi and directed it to take me to the hotel I originally booked for our anniversary. The hotel room was supposed to be a romantic getaway, but now it was just a quiet space to start figuring out my next steps. The morning after I checked into the hotel, I made a call to a lawyer recommended by a friend. I needed to sort out the divorce, and quick. My husband had tried calling multiple times since last night, but I wasn't ready to hear his excuses. I didn't pick up. At the lawyer's office, he laid out the steps for the proceedings. Given the circumstances of infidelity, you have a strong case for a favorable settlement, he explained, shuffling through some papers. Let's just get this over with, I replied, my tone flat. The lawyer nodded, understanding the urgency, and reached out to Alex to set up a meeting. The day of the meeting, I walked into the lawyer's office to find Alex and his mistress already there. My stomach turned seeing them together, but I kept my composure. As we all sat down, my lawyer wasted no time. We're here to discuss the terms of the divorce. My client demands fair financial compensation given the situation. Alex looked like he was trying to keep cool, but I could see the anger in his eyes. This is just revenge, isn't it? You're doing this because you feel inferior, because you couldn't give us a child, he shot back, his voice rising. The lawyer remained calm. Alex, the fact of your infidelity is not in dispute here. The consequences are clear and supported by the law. This isn't about revenge, it's about justice and rightful compensation. Grudgingly, Alex agreed to the terms, but as we were about to wrap up, his mistress suddenly stood up, wincing and clutching her stomach. It was clear her water had just broken. Sarah, can you? Alex started, panic lacing his voice. She needs a hospital, not me, I said sharply, standing up. I'm not the person you should be asking for help. Nevertheless, chaos ensued, and we all ended up rushing to the hospital with her. At the hospital, the scene was hectic as she was whisked away to the delivery room. Hours later, the news came, she had given birth to a healthy baby boy, but the child was clearly not Alex's. He was black, and both Alex and his mistress were white. Stunned, Alex turned to me, confusion written all over his face. Sarah, is this some sort of mistake? How can this? I couldn't help it, I burst out laughing. It was too much, the irony, the shock on his face. Alex, remember the infertility results? You're not the father. You never could be. His face drained of color as I handed him the divorce papers and the medical certificate that confirmed his condition. As he read the documents, reality hit him hard. He finally understood the full extent of his actions and their repercussions. Leaving the hospital, I felt a strange mixture of relief and vindication. Alex's calls flooded my phone as soon as I walked out, each one begging for forgiveness. But I was done. I blocked his number and didn't look back. Back in my home city, walking into the prestigious hospital where my career really began, I felt a rush of familiarity and relief. It was like stepping back into a life I'd almost forgotten, one where I was valued and respected. My colleagues welcomed me with open arms, their smiles and hearty welcome backs filled me with warmth. However, not everything was smooth. Linda, my ex-mother-in-law, started calling me frequently, her voice always carrying a tone of desperation. "Sarah, you need to come back to him. He's a mess without you," she would say, her demands growing more insistent with each call. I tried to be patient, to explain that it was over, but she wouldn't listen. One day, she showed up at the hospital unannounced. Her appearance was disheveled, her eyes frantic. "Sarah, you have to fix this. Alex has started drinking, he's lost his job because of it. I'm supporting him now. He needs you," she pleaded, causing a scene in the middle of the lobby. I took her aside, keeping my voice low and firm. "Linda, I am not responsible for Alex anymore. We are divorced. He is not my concern. Please stop contacting me and do not come here again." Her face twisted in anger, and she began to shout, drawing the attention of patients and staff. "You owe him. You can't just abandon him, he's your husband." "He was my husband. I owe him nothing now. This is a hospital, Linda. You need to leave, or I will call security," I responded, my patience finally wearing thin. She continued to argue, but I walked away, signaling to one of our security officers, who promptly began to escort her out. When she resisted, I didn't hesitate, I called the police. Despite the drama, life got better day by day. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones. I was involved in some groundbreaking projects at the hospital, and my work was fulfilling. The respect from my colleagues and the gratitude from my patients reminded me daily why I loved this job.